You by saying congratulations on this album. Of course, we've been playing the last couple of singles on our show, and they've been going really well. And now I've had to listen to the entire album, and it's absolutely fantastic. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, man. It's been a long time coming. It almost doesn't quite feel real yet that it's coming out very soon.
Now, you mentioned that it's been a long time coming. What has kind of held you guys up? Has it been this dreaded pandemic that we've been in for the last couple of years?
Well, I mean, it didn't seem to affect the first album all too much. I mean, when I say it's been a long time coming, I mean the first album was only released at, I think it was the end of last year, even.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't the end of last year. It was the year before. God, time is flying by. But even still, it's a pretty quick turnaround for a band. But just because I think we're all pretty impatient. I don't know if it's the generation that we're in and we want everything instantly. But having to wait like a year or so to put out a new album has felt like an eternity.
So, the first album was received so well by both fans and music journalists alike. Did that actually put more pressure on you guys for this second album?
I think in a way it did, because we wanted to outdo ourselves, as most musicians sort of do on each record that goes by. But one thing that we always sort of said from the beginning is that we wanted every album to just be different from each other, not necessarily have to try and go back to some of the punkier sounds that were on the first album and go, right, how can we outdo the punkiness? How can we sort of evolve that sound specifically? I think it's sort of shone through on this album that we're trying out completely different things than we initially did, and sort of I don't know. I guess the name of the game is just to subvert everyone's expectations as often as we can.
Yeah. So how do you come up with those new ideas for the album, like to do things differently? Do you sit down and talk about it, or does it just seem to happen organically when you start jamming and start to put together tracks for the new album?
I think it's definitely a very organic process, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that we all listen to a bunch of new music all the time, and I don't think any of our tastes in music are really all that similar. I don't know. At the moment, I'm listening to quite a lot of hip hop and things like that, and then our guitarist Daniel, he's listening to a lot of like post-hardcore stuff and noise rock and whatever, and it's since we're all listening to different things all the time, getting very deep into one specific genre all at once, when we actually do come together to work on something, even without meaning to subvert people's expectations, it sort of just also happens organically, which is very cool.
The world's also been a pretty crazy place over the last few years when it comes to not only the pandemic, but to politics, what we've all been going through personally and things like that. How did that influence when you sat down to work on this album, especially lyrically?
I think that me myself personally, I'm a over worrier and an overthinker most of the time, and most of the issues and the problems that are going on throughout the album that inspired it lyrically, I would say that they're quite a lot more local to what's going on in the outside world. I think that if I started to submerge myself into everything that's going on in the world around me, because of how my brain is, I'm not sure how well I'd be able to cope with it. My small town Wellington issues seem to be enough at the moment to try and get me through the writing process.
Yeah. Is the writing process very personal for you? Like, do you find yourself needing to lock yourself away almost to sit down and write, or is it something that you find that you can do with the rest of the band around?
It really depends on the sort of song. I think some of the more emotionally driven songs, and I think you'll be able to hear where those specifically are on the album, like For Asterisk, just as an example, or a song like Small, which is very much just a letter to my mum. That those sorts of songs, even though they might not sound overly emotional in terms of how the song sounds, I sort of had to lock myself away for that and really delve deep into my emotions there. But a song like Ritalin that's on the album, where it's basically just like a 3.5-minute long jam, and those sorts of things, as well as a couple of other tunes off of the album, those definitely come from just being with the boys and collaborating as much as possible. And all the songs go through the vetting process. You need to make sure everyone's happy with the tracks, but yeah, it's a real mixed bag there.
Default is one of those tracks where you can really hear how personal the track is. In fact, I think in another interview you described it as almost like a love letter to yourself. That's a pretty deep track. Do you think that's a track that's going to make a lot of your fans really sit down and take notice, but also reach out to you and let you know that they've been through a similar feeling at some stage in their life?
Sure. Well, yeah, like a song like Default. I think personally it is possibly one of the most important tracks on the album for me. It was what got the concept of the Blessed Ghost going in the first place. It was a completely different album at that time. It was sort of me trying to write about who the perfect person would be in my head, but over that period of time, it sort of just turned into this self-realization and finding things out about myself, the pros and cons, and what I can do to improve myself and sort of become a better person. And as well as a song like Default and the whole album in general, I do hope that people start to reach out and talk about their own issues in their own way, just in the same way we put it into an album. Both of the albums that we've released have been very much based in the mental health space and doing something quite cathartic for yourself. So I hope that message shines through, especially with Default.
Definitely. Now, Default's become a little bit of a monster hit here in Australia. Of course, it was played during the Friday night AFL football broadcast, which is one of the most watched events on television every week. Do you know how that came about? Because I know with tracks normally during the football broadcast, it's either because a producer of the program's been listening to it, or it's on a player's streaming platform or something like that they're a fan of. Do you know how that came about for you?
Honestly, that one was a bit of it just sort of came out of thin air, as far as I know from my end. It would be great to find out it was a player who found it or something like that. But it was actually somebody working with us on doing PR over in Australia, and then I think on the day that the game was supposed to be played, we just got an email through going, just talking about general things. Oh, by the way, you're about to be streamed on national television during an AFL game that's going to go out to a bunch of people. So that was a very surreal thing to happen.
So talking of your Aussie fans, you guys are going to be heading across here as well for a tour later on this year. How excited are you guys about that?
Oh, very, very excited. It's again, I hate to repeat myself here, but this has also felt like a long time coming. Maybe even if that's just for myself, a bucket list item of being able to play a gig in another country, and we get to visit a lot of the Central Coast there and play a couple of shows in Sydney, and it's going to be a great time. Playing alongside Radicals, who are an amazing band, and I cannot wait to actually meet up with them in person.
Outside of music, have you ever been to Australia before, or is this like the first time across the ditch for you?
I think that I've been about 3 times. For a Panic at the disco show in Sydney, I think. So yeah, no, it'll be great to go back to my own show and maybe not Panic at the Disco.
So, from a musical point of view, are you expecting the Australian crowds to be a little bit different to the Kiwi crowds? Because we've been told in the past that our crowds can be pretty crazy here in Australia and pretty wild and take some bands by surprise.
Yeah, that is one thing that has been playing in my mind quite a bit. I'm just like, we've been playing so many hometown shows for two years now in this band, probably about 5 or so for me in other projects, and I am looking forward to seeing quite a lot more energy. I don't know what kind of energy that's going to be yet, but I'm very much looking forward to a little bit of a lift from what usually goes on in New Zealand shows. It's going to be a fun experience, and all I can say is I hope that the Australian crowds like it.
Definitely. Now, of course, you've got the album coming out this Friday. You've got the tour coming up later this year. What else have you guys got planned for this year? Are you looking to get out and do as many shows as possible, or have you already started working on the third album as well?
I think based off of what we've been doing and how we've sort of been feeling this year, after recording and tracking the second album back in January, all I'll say is I'll be surprised if this is the only bit of music that you guys hear from us this year. We definitely have a lot of different things that we want to try and work on. Whether that'll actually be pushed out or anything, I'm not too sure at this point, but I think as a whole we're very much inspired to keep working in that recording space at the moment and see what we can sort of come up with there. Of course, we're looking forward to the shows and being able to get out there and play as much as possible, but we're sort of all shut-ins by nature. So being in the studio where no one can screw with us, it's great. But yeah,
definitely. Well, mate, we are going to play Default on our show again right now. So what would you like to say to all of the listeners out there, not only before they take a listen to this amazing track again, but before they go out and grab the album on Friday as well?
Yes, so this is Default, possibly one of our most up-tempo and in-your-face sort of songs. I really hope that you enjoy it. If you like the lyrical content, if you like what you're hearing, make sure to go and get yourself a pre-order of the vinyl, or go ahead and find out where we're playing in Australia when we head over next month.